Tone. I am Rob. We are Sports Take, biggest sports YouTube network. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Let's hit the like button if we could, friends. That would be kind of you.
Hey, Rob.
Yes,
you know
sir.
what's crazy, man. Every now and again, what I like to do, I like to during the breaks, I like to go through the live chat, check the temperature of the people. Maybe see some talking points here and there because we got a lot of people in the chat who bring up a lot of great points, right?
Sure.
One of our guys here, Daz, he says, I feel like old Yeller right now, waiting to get put down. That's a hell of a point, Daz, because that's how I feel too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this team is just walking us down that green mile. and it's only a matter of time before this thing comes to an end. Like I said in the last segment, this is our final destination.
Yeah. No, listen, hard to argue. And the problem is now you look at it and you have questions about the coach. You wonder why the quarterback has regressed. You look at an old secondary, at least at the corner position. You look at a linebacker crew that really has no business starting in the NFL. You look at a defensive line that for no apparent reason has really let them down in the run game. And they were over 100 yards again yesterday rushing. And in the pass game, once again, your edge pass rushers don't get a sack. You look at two assistant coaches, two coordinators who look like they couldn't coach their way out of a paper bag. You question everything. And let Howie Roseman decided that Denard Wilson wasn't the answer as the defensive coordinator, and they brought in Sean Desai, who you didn't have enough faith in to even get through the season, and you turned to Matt Patricia, who's made it worse. There's everything has to be questioned right now. That's the problem. It's not one thing. It's not like, oh, they have a great offense, but their defense stinks. Mm-hmm. And the head coach is just doing, working wonders. No, everything is in question right now with this team. And look no further than the defense. So let's start there. So they decide prior to the Seattle game that they're going to bounce Sean Desai or whatever. I know he's still there before everybody starts jumping on that. I know he's still here, but you know what I mean. Matt Patricia takes this thing over. They have been markedly worse, at least with Desai. I'll give him this much. He did a really good job against Miami. He did a really good job against Kansas City. He did a really good job, first time against Dallas and a couple other games as well. Now, did they start losing badly to Seattle and Dallas? Sure. But they pulled the plug on them. And since then, the Eagles have lost to Drew Lock, who went 92 yards on you without any timeouts. They have lost to Kyler Murray. They have lost to Tyrod Taylor, among others. Almost lost to Tommy DeVito and Tyrod Taylor on Christmas. So they're worse, and they look worse. And they start yesterday, Tone, dropping Hassan Reddick twice into coverage. They have no idea what they're doing. They are not playing to the players' strengths. Matt Patricia is a square peg, round hole guy.
Exactly. And you were quite honest. See, if you were going to make the change, you should have made the change over the bye week. So at least that gives you time to install some things. If you were that discerning, because didn't a report come out saying they already were, this was already trickling down the line?
They had made up their mind that they were going to do it out of the bye. So if you made up your mind, do it.
So you should have made it then. So that way you have time to acclimate this thing or somehow settle this thing down.
Yeah.
But you decided to part ways with him after the Cowboys game, knowing damn well he went up against two of the hardest defenses or two of the hardest matchups, and that was the deciding factor for it.
Exactly.
It was they sandbagged him.
Yeah,
they sandbagged him. They made their mind up already, but they wanted it. They wanted it to look so bad, so we can sit here as fans and say, yeah, it makes sense, right? And we took the bait for a second. But the fact of the matter is, you were better served keeping Sean Desai in. That way, you're not confusing your players. Mm-hmm. The terminology is still the same. At the very least, you can expect Sean Desai to try to put guys where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens. I would have much rather died on my sword that way, right? But now you have a situation where Matt Patricia clearly has no answers for this team. Hassan Reddick basically came out and said it and said, look, and this is it's really hard to do. It's really tough for everybody right now. Just going through this transition. This was an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And in the first segment, I think you said something along the lines of you don't really consider Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman to be, knee-jerk reaction kind of guys. They proved that they were this season.
With that's a desperate move that looks awful in hindsight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, where do they go on defense from here? This defense needs an overhaul completely. They need to get younger. They need to get faster, more athletic. Where's the defensive effort, the defensive intentionality? Like it just seemed like Tyrod Taylor threw for 300 yards yesterday, 297 to be exact.
Exactly.
I'm rounding up. You let Tyrod Taylor throw for 300 yards. That Giants offense put up over 400 yards in total offense on you. They dominated you at the point of attack. They dominated you at the catch point. They dominated you in every way possible. And this defense can't stop a nosebleed.
Right.
They can't stop a bus if they can't wave down a bus. They can't even stop a bus if they miss it. They're late. Like they are so bad.
They're pulling on their stops coming up and they're yanking on the cord.
Right.
And the bus driver's just like, woo.
Yep. They're that bad. They are that bad.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't ridden the bus in a long time. Wow.
Oh, it's fun. Let me tell you.
That is hilarious.
Every day to Temple. It was the bus and then
the old SEPTA yellow cord.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah,
that's
baby.
crazy. This team is bad. This defense is bad, man. They're so bad. All you can do is laugh.
Look, agreed, man. And there's a couple other things that so let's go here. What has happened to the vaunted pass rush? So you go another game without your edge rushers getting a sack. I think it's been 7 games now for Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, whoever else, Nolan Smith, who's been a ghost, do nothing. Tone, I'm telling you, man, if you told me before the game, or you told me right now that Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis were inactive, Nolan Smith was inactive, Josh Sweat was inactive, I would believe you. I would have believed you. They actually played in that game.
Right. They were better off, like, again, and this is hindsight, because you and I agreed that they should play the starters.
Yeah.
But if you were going to give this kind of effort, you were better off sitting these guys.
Correct.
Right? You were better off sitting these guys. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the way the Cowboys beat the Commanders, we would have been like, okay, you kind of had foresight. You saw that game coming. You saw that game playing out the way it did. So, we're not going to kill you, right? They beat them, 35-10, whatever it was. So, I wouldn't even be able to kill him for that. But you played everybody. And that was the outing we had, the final game of the season, playing for the division, even though the Cowboys ended up winning the game, but you still had a chance at the division. That's the effort you gave out. That's why I can sit here and say with confidence that they gave up on Nick Sirianni. They gave up on him. Mm-hmm. They had something to play for, and that's what they gave you. How can we sit here with a straight face and say they didn't give up on that coach? How can we say that? That
had every earmark of a team that had just packed it in. And
your linebacker core sucks. Linebacker core is awful. The defensive line has been awful the past several weeks.
Yeah.
Your corners, awful. Safeties, awful. No effort, no fire, no heart, no accountability. It's just awful. Everybody is running solo dolo out there. Yeah. Everybody is doing their own thing. Nothing is complimentary. Nothing is working. I saw it from the very first drive. When I saw that window that Tyrod Taylor threw on his first pass, I'm like, oh, this game's over. That's all it took. This game was so bad, Rob. I said, you know what? I'm gonna get an early start on dinner. I made dinner yesterday. I made some chicken wings in the air fryer.
Oh yeah.
Made some broccoli, some rice, you know what I mean? What else did I do? I prepared myself a lunch, while the game's on.
You did your whole week. You have your whole week done. Yeah.
Listen, the game was so bad, Rob. I didn't even watch it on my TV. I had it on my phone just in the background.
Oh my God.
Come on, man.
Yeah, man.
Come on. This shit is unsavory.
Unsavory. All right. So here, let me give you. I don't even know if I want to do this to you. All right. So keep in mind, right? This is a team that had 70 sacks last year. 70. This year, Tone, they have just fallen to pieces, man, in terms of points allowed. You realize they rank 30th in points allowed. The only teams worse are the Cardinals and the Commanders. The Carolina Panthers gave up less points per game this year during the regular season than the Philadelphia Eagles did. Carolina Panthers. Okay. That's how bad it has gotten. So the Eagles versus the pass last year, Tone, were number 1 in the NFL. They were the best team. They're 31st this year. They give up 252. There's only one team worse, and it's the Washington Commanders in terms of points allowed. Okay. This is how far they've fallen. The depths of this. So they went from 70 sacks to 43 sacks. 27 less sacks for the Eagles this year. That's not just a little bit of a decline that you're going to get sometimes when you're coming off a Super Bowl and you lose some people. You're going to have a little bit of a fall off.
And look, here's the thing, right? The league leader in sack was the Ravens with 60, right?
Yeah.
And the Eagles had what, 70 plus last year, something like that?
70 on the nose.
They had 70 on the nose.
Regular season.
That's just regular season, right?
Yep.
They had 70. So 70 is clearly a hard number to reach, right? But the season high or the league high was 60 this year. The top 5, Colts had 51, Bills at 4 had 54, Dolphins had 56, Chiefs had 57, Ravens had 60, right? You mean it to, like, we expected this team to be in the top 5.
Right.
How many sacks did they have again, Rob?
43? 43? Yeah.
43. Is that what you said? 43?
Yeah. Let me pull it up just to confirm, but I believe it's
43. Yep. I'm looking at it right now. 43.
Yep. Okay.
43. They couldn't even crack the top 5. They couldn't even get 50 sacks. Again, 70 sacks. We didn't expect that, but I expected 50.
Well, think about this.
I expected 50.
Think about this. Okay. Let's look at what they put into that defensive line. In the middle, you have Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, all first rounders. There's 3 ones right there. Okay. Go to your edge. Nolan Smith is a first rounder. Hassan Reddick was a high-priced free agent, although in hindsight, it's a great deal. But it was,
and he's a first rounder too.
Correct. He was a first rounder.
Yep.
Josh Sweat, I believe, a 4th rounder.
4th rounder, but first round talent. The reason he dropped is because of knee injury in high school. Correct. But Florida State guy. Everyone knew first round talent.
First rounder.
Yeah.
So you have not only invested in a major way in the draft, you paid these guys a lot of money. And for that team to get gashed on the ground the way that they have, for them to get gashed in the passing game the way that they have, that's the thing. Like, you can talk, we could sit here and we recognize it that the corners are old, especially Bradbury. We recognize that the linebackers aren't good enough, that the safeties are inexperienced in some ways, and they're old in other ways, like Byard, and all that stuff's valid. What in God's name is the excuse for the defensive line? Like, what? I would love an explanation that, like, more than anything else, at the end of the season, when Jeffrey Lurie and Howie, meet with the media and they talk about what went on and what went down with this team, that's what I would love to know. Honestly, like, if you could explain to me a couple of things, but that's definitely on my top 3 list. What happened to your defensive line?
Here's the thing, right? Amongst the corners, you're paying Darius Slay is currently on a 3-year, $42 million deal, and James Bradbury is currently on a 3-year, $38 million deal, right? And that's a lot of money tied up in those guys. Darius Slay has an average salary of $14 million a year. James Bradbury, an average salary of $12.6 million. You are spending $26.6 million on 2 players, on 2 corners that you're getting almost nothing out of. Almost nothing out of.
Yeah.
This, and also, to take it a step further, the guaranteed dollars. Let's just focus on that, because that's the one you gave them straight up.
Yeah.
Darius Slay, $24.5 million. James Bradbury, $20 million. $44.5 million just thrown in the trash can. Burned.
Yep. Yeah. And how do you, like, here's the problem too. Because you're on the hook with Bradbury, because you're on the hook with Slay, and I know it's not quite as bad as what you're on the hook for with Bradbury, but because you're on the hook for those guys, like it is not going to make it easy to fix this. And on top of it, are you finally going to realize that you need legitimate linebacker play? Or are you going to continue to go down this road of like piecemealing it, hoping that Kobe Dean can come back and play well, and all of that? Like, are you really going to look in the mirror? I'm talking about Howie and Jeffrey and the decision makers. Are you really going to look in the mirror and realize that we have to do things differently? We can't just, last year was amazing, but it's long gone. This isn't 2022 and you're not getting it back anytime soon. I don't know. I don't know that there's the capacity or the willingness to do that. I don't know. But what I do know is, Tone, my best guess is Sirianni survives and there's 2 new coordinators next year.
Okay.
That's my guess. That's my guess. My Siri reacts when I say Sirianni. So that's
that's hilarious. Sirianni, that's funny.
Phone is off now. Yeah.
Can you say that one more time? Siri got in the way of your Sirianni take.
So I believe that Sirianni, I'm waiting for my phone, it didn't do it, survives, and you see 2 new coordinators here. But really, I mean, if you think about it, on top of that, like, what else are you doing philosophically to change things up? We get it. You believe in the trenches. Great. No problem. You believe in edge rushers. Great. You believe in corners. But the problem with the corner thing is, while they're willing to spend in free agency and or make a trade like they did for Slay, they don't have good talent recognition of guys coming out at the corner spot. They just haven't over the years.
I want to get your perspective on John McMullen's take. He was on the post-game show last night, with Mike Missinelli, Seth Joyner, Mark Farzetta, our esteemed team. And I want to get your take on his perspective when it comes to Nick Sirianni, the front office, and his coaching staff, most notably the defense. I just want to pick your brain, and I want you to give me your instant reaction to when you hear this.
At some point, and by the way, I think that point is at some point, and by the way, I think that point is coming, because one thing I know about Jeffrey Lurie, he's a great owner, but if you do not live up to expectations, there will be scapegoats. There will be scapegoats. To me, that's going to be the defensive coaching staff. It's probably going to be gutted. They might keep 1 or 2. It might be a situation where Howie and Jeffrey say, Nick, this is going to be your defensive coordinator, insert name. If you accept it, you can move forward. If you don't accept it, we're going to have a problem. We might be at that area, especially if they lose in Tampa Bay. If they win in Tampa Bay, if they're competitive in San Francisco, it'll probably be fine. But we're now at the point where, there's going to be scapegoats. It's just a matter of who and where and when.
All right. So agree and disagree. Agree that there will be scapegoats 100%. I don't think even a survival against Tampa and loss to San Fran, if it plays out that way, keeps the defensive staff safe. In other words, I don't think that means Patricia's back. I think you will have wholesale changes on the defensive side. I also agree that it will be Jeffrey Lurie and Howie telling Nick that you're doing this. And if you don't do it, then it becomes a Doug situation where Nick could then get bounced. So that's the way I think it plays out. And I don't think it's a guarantee that Brian Johnson's back. I know John was answering the question regarding the defense and focusing on the defense, but I don't think he's back either. Like I think Brian Johnson is in big trouble also. And look, that's a bad look. If you're pointing fingers at every coordinator and everybody but Nick, it's a bad look. I will just tell you that. But I think it could very well play out that way. That is for sure. That's what we're going to be looking at. I don't know. My guess is, Tone, I don't think Sirianni pushes back to the point where, like Doug did, where Doug was like, I want a Super Bowl, man. I want X as my coordinator, whatever. And then that became a major issue. I think Nick will kind of roll with the punches for a couple of reasons. I think he's not in a position Doug was in. And number 2, dude, you got your ass handed to you this year. Are you really at a position of strength with leverage? You're not.
Exactly. That's a great point by you. He doesn't have the same leverage that a Doug Peterson would have. So whatever is pushed across his table from Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, he has no choice but to play ball. But he's been playing ball from the beginning.
Right.
He's been playing ball from the very beginning. The only difference is he didn't get the Super Bowl to match.
Yes.
But he's been playing ball since the very beginning. Today's show is going to be very interesting because, and we didn't really talk about this in the pre-show meeting, but I think we should really, check the landscape. I gave you on John McMullen's take because I felt like it was very important for us to break down. But also, I want to give you our guy, Bill Colarulo. He has a show, the Philly Sports Power Hour. He said this earlier, and I want to get your take on it because he said something very interesting that stood out to me. But I want to get your spin on this thing. Okay.
Yep.
Realize. And what I'm starting to realize, which is the worst thing for me, is I'm starting to realize that this team that I thought had such a strong culture, that had such an uncanny ability to battle adversity, was nothing but a bunch of front runners. There is a severe lack of leadership and culture on this football team, something that I touted Nick Sirianni for building. And man, was I wrong. I thought Sirianni had built a strong culture. I thought the leadership group on this team was so strong that not only could they battle adversity, but that they would be strong enough to overcome the Super Bowl hangover that so many teams have fallen victim to. But what we're seeing in front of us is a team that can't battle adversity, a team that is full of a bunch of front runners that the moment adversity creeped its head, they all cowered. The San Francisco 49ers dominated you, and you've never been able to recover from it. And that starts at the top. I'm not absolving the players for their performance on the field. But this lack of an ability to overcome any adversity starts with Nick Sirianni. And it trickles all the way through that entire locker room.
All right, so let's hit a couple things. And that's sort of along the lines that we were talking about at the top of the show. Like, if you're not going to be calling plays, devising schemes to get yourself out of these things because you want to be the CEO and you want to be able to connect with people on a special level, I'm fine with that. But if you're not connecting with people on that level, what are you here for? Tone, I've made the comparison with him and Charlie Manuel a lot. People rip Charlie Manuel because he wasn't a quote-unquote great strategist, right? But Charlie Manuel had a great feel. Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins, all of those guys went out and played for him. And he knew when to get on them, and he knew when to pat them on the back, when to tell a joke, but he would get into them when he had to get into them. Whatever Nick is doing is not connecting. It's not. And I'm with Bill in that I've touted culture about this team left and right. I said, you got leaders like Brandon Graham. You got leaders like Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson. And you have guys, even though they're young, like Jalen Hurts, which means this stuff isn't going to fall through the cracks. Somebody's going to catch it. Either level 1's going to catch it, level 2's going to catch it, level 3's going to catch it. You're going to be fine when things go sideways. Well, that hasn't been the case. Not only are things bad, they've been compounded. We've seen a lot of nonsense over the last week or so. And I think there's a lack of belief right now. And that's the one thing that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are really going to have to drill down on. When they have conversations with the players in the exit meetings, this is where you really got to drill down. And you got to find out, do you guys still believe in him? Do you? I mean, do you still think that he can get you out of a bad situation? Do you feel like you're being coached to get the maximum out of you? And if the answer is no, or I'm not sure, then it's making your decision that much easier as an owner or a decision maker like Howie Roseman.
And here's the thing, right? What scares me the most about this whole situation is, like, yeah, let's say Nick Sirianni does play ball with Howie and, Jeffrey about who his next DC is going to be, right? But I still can't get past the fact that this team is not responding to his voice anymore. That can't be changed with a DC or a new OC, they're not responding to him. Whatever he's teaching, whatever he's trying to force feed these young these men, they are not responding anymore. You cannot recover from that. There's nothing he can do to earn or regain the respect of his players. They see through him. They know he has no answers. And how do you bounce back from that, Rob?
Yeah.
Like Howie and Jeffrey might bring him back. Let's just be realistic about it for a second and not emotional. They might very well bring him back, right?
Yep.
But if they do that, they're running the risk of this team completely not buying into whatever he's selling from week one. At least this year, they took the bait until what, 10-1?
Right.
Next season, all you're doing is expediting your issues. Whatever we experience this year, it's just going to start happening in week one now.
Well, here's the other problem, Tony. The last thing you want to do is go into next year with this guy as like as a walking dead, as a lame duck. Like, in other words, like you're already not sure about him, and you're going to go into next year with that feel. If you're even somewhat checked out on him, you got to make a move.
Exactly.
But here's the one thing I would say to Eagles fans who want this to happen. Like, I've seen people have reached out to me, and I'm not talking about the chat. I'm talking about people who have reached out. Hey, what do you think about Belichick? Or what do you think about this guy or that guy? Do we really believe that Howie and Jeffrey are going to bring in someone like Bill Belichick here? I don't. I think they want someone that they can work more in a collaborative manner with, rather than someone who is going to want to do things their way with an extremely strong voice. Look at the last two hires. I'm not talking about Chip. I think Chip damaged them, okay, for lack of a better word. But the last two hires were Doug Peterson, who was very happy just to get the gig. Nothing against Doug. I mean, the guy won you a Super Bowl, man. Total props.
But Doug was still a man's man. Like, he was somebody that, like, it's like, I'm not saying you got to get a Bill Belichick. I'm not saying you got to get a Belichickian, a guy like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm not even saying you got to be in the stakes, you to be in the sweepstakes for Harbaugh. I'm not even saying that, because those kind of guys wouldn't even come here in the first place because of the philosophy here. But what I'm saying is, I think they need to do a better job and be more intentional bringing in experience. Just experience. No one's saying you got to have a gun-toting, I know. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
experience.
But what I'm saying is, like, your pool's limited, and it's not good. I don't mean this in a good way or a justification way.
Yeah.
I think
it's almost like where do you go, right? Okay, you fire him. What's your answer?
But you should be in play for all of these guys. But the reality is, there's a lot of ego involved here, man. And
that begs the question, Rob.
Yeah.
What's the likelihood that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie look in the mirror and say, okay, we know what went wrong on theirs. We know what went wrong on the field. We know what went wrong with the coaching staff. Where did we go wrong?
Yeah.
Because I think everyone needs to be soul searching.
Totally.
This offseason. Everybody needs to recalibrate and reevaluate what's going on. Jeffrey Lurie, was I the best owner I could be this season? What did I do? What decision did I make? Was I not all the way in on, but I made it anyway? Howie Roseman, what did I do to hold us back? Where do I fit into the problems? Right? The moment this team from the top down starts to actually look in the mirror and have some level of accountability, then we're going to start to see some changes. Now, the likelihood of that, I don't know if I'm willing to bet my bottom dollar on it.
I'm with you. All right, let's continue this discussion. Let's come back and let's look at the opponent here. They will be facing the Tampa Bay Bucks, a Bucks team that won the worst division in football. Really, I would sit here as Tone, and I would tell you that this sets up perfectly for the Eagles because they got the worst team going into the playoffs. But we've seen what this has looked like for the last 5 weeks, so I'm not saying that even a little bit. But let's look at the Tampa Bay Bucks. They played them earlier in the year. We'll kind of dive into that a little bit when we come back. Don't go anywhere. That's Tone DeShields. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Pro Action Restoration. Finally got the home studio back, man. And you know why? Because Pro Action Restoration crushed it. I had a leak from an upstairs bathroom that was really bad that went into a bathroom down here and spread into my basement. And I had all kinds of problems. I had to get I had to drywall the ceilings. I had to drywall the wall. I had to drywall my bathroom. I had to get a new carpet because that was damaged. I had all kinds of issues, man. And to say they took care of it is an understatement. It looks awesome. I'm really happy with everything. And here's the thing. If you go through the pain and the inconvenience of water, fire, smoke, mold damage to a property that you own, your house, whatever, you're not sure who to turn to, Pro Action are the people that you turn to. They're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. Pro Action Restoration is licensed, bonded, fully insured, serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. They did with mine. Again, water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.
Go to get your game on.